Hi there, I'm Rebecca and a really warm welcome back to my channel created by Rebecca. In this week's video we are going to have a go at needle felting. Let's get started. I've been wanting to have a go at needle felting for quite a while. I tried to vicariously do it by buying my husband an awful lot of needle felting supplies when he first retired, because I thought that's something he would really enjoy doing. No, it doesn't float his creative boat. He, I don't know, I think it leaves too much room for artistic license, whereas he likes something that's quite prescriptive. He will sew something if he has a pattern for it, if he knows exactly what line he's got to follow, exactly what he's got to cut out, that sort of thing. So I might accidentally on purpose just sort of acquire the things that I bought for him, because actually I really wanted them for me anyway. Did I just admit to that? So I thought, because it's Christmas and we're getting festive, and I don't know whether you've seen any of my Christmas trees, but I do lots of hand sewn things for them. I say trees, I have 3. One I don't make anything for, that's just a bought baubles, and there's some IKEA little teddy bears on them. The second Christmas tree is here in the kitchen. I call it the Pets Christmas tree, but it's not really. It's got some little tiny gingerbread men that I sewed. It's got some heart gift tags which I Zentangled onto. They're quite fun, but it's quite sort of folky, kind of Scandi looking. The third Christmas tree is at the top of the landing, and that's filled with handmade things. So it's got some cross stitch that I have mounted onto sticky board and then put loops on. It's got felt ornaments that my husband has made. Some of them aren't even Christmassy. There's a pineapple for Psych, it's one of my favourite television programmes. And oh gosh, he's got a selection of dinosaurs, you name it, it's on there. It's just fun. And I thought, in the spirit of that, why not have a go at these 3 baubles? And I have made some 2D ornaments, which I die cut some pieces out of felt, and I've sewed those together and done a little bit of some embroidery on them, very basic. But I thought these are quite fun because they're 3-dimensional. They are actual baubles, and they fit in with my kind of folksy Scandi feel. So I think these are going to look rather nice, and hopefully, just being spheres, they won't be too complicated to make, and the detail will fulfill my artistic creative side. So let's open the box and see what we get. This kit is by Bergin and Bath and will make 3 baubles. It contains the wool fibres, specialist needle, thread and step-by-step photographic instructions. It does say this will take 2 hours. That's a lie. Inside there is a really nice photograph of another kit that you can get, and some details about the company. Here are the wools. We have 2 different types. We have the off-white colour, which is a carded core wool, and then there are 3 colours of a much smoother type of wool. I believe that's sometimes called tops or roving. You also get some baker's twine, some needles, and this what appears to be quite a comprehensive set of photographic instructions. And there's also a get you started basic sheet. The one thing this kit doesn't include is a foam pad, and you will need it. The instructions say to take a 1 centimetre wide strip of each of the coloured wools, and you're going to use that for embellishments. So that's what I'm doing here. And then it says to divide the core wool into thirds for the baubles, which will be roughly 5 centimetres in diameter. I chose to do this lengthways because that made sense to me. The next instruction is probably the least helpful. It says roll 1/3 of the white wool around your finger and slide it off. Place it on the sponge and stab it evenly all over to felt the fibres. What I have learnt from not only doing this kit but also listening to and watching other YouTubers while I was making this kit is that actually I should have started off with wrapping the wool around something much smaller, so it started life much tighter, or I should have tried just sort of folding it round on itself and stabbing it as I turned it to really begin the felting process from the very centre of the ball, because actually this took a heck of a long time. It took me 12 minutes to get one ball, and I don't think that's even sort of completely felted. It still feels quite puffy. So I think I could have sped up the process a lot by starting with a much tighter wrapping of the wool. I've decided to make all 3 core wool balls first, so that they all end up the same size at this stage before I start covering them. Then the next confusing instruction says rub some coloured wool to make a pad and place it on the ball, felting it with the tip of your needle. That's really hard, and I think it's to do with this particular type of wool, and I understand why we've used this very smooth tops wool, because you need it later on for doing the detail, but actually for covering the balls it's quite tricky. You possibly could have had a better time if you'd carded the wool yourself, maybe on a couple of brushes. I couldn't satisfactorily mess it up enough, so I ended up sort of pulling it apart and layering it up in different directions, and then pulling it apart again and layering it up to try and mess it up that way. It did eventually work, but it was a longer process than it needed to be, I think. Quickly show off my fancy nails. Just been to my work's Christmas party. These are press-on nails. I haven't used press-on nails since the 80s, and these were really good. I mean, I am not being kind to them at all, and these have been on here for 2 or 3 days, and yeah, they're withstanding this new craft. I finished felting the aqua coloured ball, and I've actually got quite a lot of the tops left over, but I don't think I need to do any more layers on the ball. So what I'm going to do instead is just add that to the pile that I've kept back for decoration. So we'll move now on to the pink ball. This crossing and tearing and crossing of the fibres seems to work okay-ish, so I'll just keep going with it. Oh look, I've made a head with some cool hair. Nice. Now we're moving on to adding the decoration. It says to rub a wisp of wool to make a thin strand and then stab one end into the bauble to secure it. Again, not desperately descriptive. I mean, how thick is a wisp? So I almost had to create the strand and then sort of decided probably it was a bit too thick. Thinned a bit out, have another go, thinned a bit out. And I was using their photographs as a guide, but I don't know, just it didn't seem terribly helpful as an instruction. Secured one end, twisted the fibres together to make a strand, and to be honest, even after doing the rubbing together, I kept using the twisting method to make sure it all stayed nice and fine. Make the line as long as I need it, and then I cut it off and poked the end into the bauble. And now we're going to start making a kind of leafy shape, a very folk art kind of leaf. So I'm attaching another piece of wool. Felting it in. And when I get to as long as I want that leaf to be, I'm just going to poke my needle in, twist the wool again, and return it back to the stem. I'm going to just whip the needle out and felt that corner just to make sure I've really got that point fixed, and then along the line. And then I can take that strand out to do the other side, and this line just zigzags backwards and forwards. And when I get to just above the bottom, so it has a little stem, I can just cut the end off and poke it in. Now it says rub wisps of wool to make small berries. Again, not terribly descriptive, but you kind of get the idea once you start working with it of how much or how little wool you need to make a little ball, and how much of that you're going to lose into the felted piece, because you have got to felt it into the piece. So if you make the ball too small, it will just disappear. So you do need to have it big enough that when you start to felt it into the shape, it doesn't just disappear beneath the surface, which is possible. But I guess that skill of working with really fine detail comes with practice. We're moving on to the navy ball now, and the sprig on this has a curved shape. I didn't really follow the pattern for this one. I was pretty good with the first bauble, but this one I didn't quite understand from the photographs what they were aiming at with the design, so I just kind of made it my own, really. I knew it needed to end with a blob, as many folk art designs do, so I cut the strand a little bit long and then used that to help create the blob for the end. And just needle felted it in to secure it, and then drove my needle in sideways to try and neaten it. Then I took a little bit of time and made 6 or 8 more little balls of similar sizes. I made pairs, so they got slightly bigger as they went down the stem. And this is tricky. This is tiny amounts of wool. So I'm trying to felt the point to the stem, but it is just sinking into the felted shape. So I need to finagle it a little bit to just kind of get the right look. And you can just sort of manoeuvre the wool around a little bit with the needle. You do have to be careful because these needles are very sharp and they will snap if you try and bend them. So maybe having a normal sewing needle nearby that you can use to just sort of manoeuvre the wool around a little bit if you need to might be a really useful thing to do. Now, this isn't intended as a tutorial. It's more of a review and how a beginner would get on with a kit like this. Obviously, I have a degree of experience with crafts and art and model making, and I think that helps. I think possibly a complete beginner might need to start with something maybe even more basic. I don't know. No, actually I retract that. Don't underestimate yourself. If you want to have a go, have a go. Why not? In the end, it's just some wool. And if you don't like the designs that you've put on, you can pull them off and you can do something completely different. Why not? The pink bauble has a sort of folk art, snowflakey kind of vibe to it. and it only shows the design, I believe, on one side. So I decided, as it had gone okay on the first side, I would actually try and mirror it on the reverse. Now we're ready to think about how to suspend the baubles. I've divided the baker's twine into 3 and tied a knot in each piece so that it forms a loop. And the instructions show the knot at the top of the loop, and then you form a bridge with some of the felt and you put that over the middle section of the loop, a flat section. But I didn't really like the look of that, so I thought I would do something a little bit different. I've taken my knot and I have frayed out the ends of the baker's twine. And I'm using my felting needle to push the fibres into the woolen bauble, and I'm keeping an eye on where the knot is going to end up, particularly on this pink one. It doesn't matter so much on the other two because they're a random pattern, but this one is much more defined. So I want to be sure that the knot is going to end up in the middle of various axes of the design. Once I've got the ends of the knot into the ball, I can start to wrap a little bit of the wool that is the colour of the bauble around where that knot meets the bauble and start to secure those frayed ends underneath another layer of the felt. And I keep testing it to make sure that, you know, when you're hanging it on the tree, that string isn't just going to instantly fall out. It's quite secure. I keep checking the shape of the bauble, giving it a little roll, make sure. And I like that look. I like making that knot a little feature. And here they are all finished. And here they are hanging on my landing Christmas tree with all my other handmade ornaments that my husband and I have made. And I've got all this tops wool left over, so I think I'm just going to save that for something else. So for my first try at needle felting, I am really pleased with how these turned out. I think I've done okay. And I think they're going to look really cute on my little Scandi folk arty trees at Christmas. Right, well that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share and subscribe to me here on YouTube. And until next time, bye.